So anyway, cool question for Coach.
Coach, what did you learn on Saturday?
We learned that we need to tackle better. So as much as we can get that, you always know after a long layoff, tackling is going to be a little bit rough on that first one, and it was, especially in the first drive. It was good. There were some good humbling experiences there. We need that. You need to get humble, and so hopefully they can respond.
You mentioned on media day about how it had to be a collective defense where there was going to be a lot of rotating. Is that how do you come to find out the right kind of who fits well together and how you roll in those substitution patterns?
Yeah, we're still in the process of that. Like it's still trying to find the right mix right now. And as you're mixing groups, you find out who communicates well together. Which guys maybe vibe together better. If within a practice, if a guy gets a little boo-boo and he has to come out for a series or something, another guy has to go in, and so that's sometimes it's organic, sometimes it's forced. Like we'll script different groups intentionally just to see how they react. You put a two in the ones group to see, hey, listen, you may be dominating, against, the two groups. Let's see how you step up, when you go against the ones, and you find out what you really have. So, again, a lot of humbling moments happen in camp, especially for younger players who think, okay, I'm starting to arrive, and then they go against, fourth and fifth year college football players, and they find out that this is way bigger than they thought.
There are a lot of humbling moments and in just the grind of camp. So what do y'all try to do to show them a light at the end of the tunnel, to kind of give some almost positive reinforcement to keep them fired up?
Yeah, the one thing about continuity is, especially on defense, we have a lot to draw on. And so when you have a guy like Yusuf Corker in the building, and you can say, hey, listen, here's a guy that redshirted, and then he had a grind and on that 18 team, was a special teams player and had some, sort of limited snaps, and then became a full-time starter as a sophomore, junior, senior. You talk about Jamin Davis. You talk about a lot of guys that have gone through, and, you think you're going to walk in, and just and be a superstar, because that's what you've always been, and then you find out, wow, everybody in this field was a superstar in their hometown, right? Maybe in their state. And so it takes time, and so you can show them that the process works, in terms of if you can just stay patient, keep getting the coaching, try to get better every day. You're not going to be perfect the next day. Try to just correct the mistakes that the coach, made the day before. You're probably going to make some new ones, take the corrections there, and then just try not to repeat the same ones over and over.
Obviously, when Yusuf and Jamin and those guys were in the portal wasn't a thing, or do you feel like guys are responding to that message, even though they can just leave and go somewhere else when they're not?
Listen, if at the end of the day, if you try to break away from that model, like I think you're going to be in serious trouble. You can't, just because an external force exists, you can't just all of a sudden say, okay, you're going to change the development process. Like, it doesn't exist. Players still have to develop. 18-year-olds still have to become 21 and 22-year-olds. They have to create, they have to grow into their man body. They have to play within a system. They have to learn the checks. There's a lot of moving pieces. To say that just because of that you're going to skip the process of developing, it's wishful thinking.
How has Davron developed just into that bigger role so far in camp?
I think it's been solid. He's really trying to take to it. And again, it is a much bigger role than he's ever had at anywhere he's been. Not so much from a play time. He played a lot at NIU, and then he's had plenty of full-time snaps here. Started the Missouri game 2 years ago. Started last year against Tennessee there in the boundary. So he's got that, but to actually have to be a voice in the locker room, a voice in front of the defense, a guy with a green dot, but he's a guy that I've been really proud of in terms of he's trying. Is it perfect right now? No, and he knows that there's still things that he has to grow through and grow in pain. So
that role you all used him in that Tennessee game, outside a little bit, do you feel like you can be some versatility in the middle and moving around some, or is he going to focus mainly on staying there?
Yeah, no, he's a guy that gives you that versatility to to be able to play in and out, and sort of how, again, you talk about those mixing groups and where guys could go, and then if injuries happen, who could be guys. You always are trying to have some plan Bs and plan Cs. Hey, if this happened or if that happened, hey, what is the contingency plan? And so you always have those in the back of your mind, and he's a guy that gives you some of that flexibility.
Brad, in your back seven, how pleased are you? What's it look like with your backups, your 2s and 3s, your depth back there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of day by day, play by play. Sometimes it looks good and you feel good, and then there's some other plays you're like, wow, there's some younger guys back there, and they're going to have to learn through that mistake. And so you never know exactly what you have, until game day hits. Again, I'll go back to 22 down there in the swamp, and Jordan Lovett gets thrown into the fire as a redshirt freshman, and he was a guy that had really sort of struggled through camp that year, and you're like, man, hopefully he doesn't have to go until next year, and then the Geiger injury happens, and the next thing you look up, you're like, okay, and he responded in the moment. Some guys respond in the moment. Ty Bryant did a great job his true freshman year responding in the moment, going in the Tennessee game as first time starting a game. But some guys don't. Some guys, it's too big for them at the time. And so, practice is one thing. We try to put them in as many adverse situations to really sort of create that humility, and then to see how they respond to it. Because the bottom line is, if you're going to be a young guy and you play, you're going to make mistakes in a game. And if you can't respond on the practice field, you sure as heck aren't going to respond.
Okay, folks, I need to get Coach Andrew here. Thanks. Yep.